Hello, my fellow business peeps, and welcome to Making Sales Social Live, brought to you by Social Sales Link. I'm Bob Woods, and I'm joined by co-host and fellow LinkedIn authority and virtuoso, and yeah, I really worked thesaurus.com this week for that one, Bryn Tillman.
Hi, Bob Woods. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. How about yourself?
I'm great now that I'm hanging out with you.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Let's get this show on the road because we've got a lot of stuff to talk about. So, today we're going to discuss a topic we don't talk about nearly enough, but it's one that I love because it can be both so much fun and helpful to a wide community of business development professionals that we don't normally talk to. And that's business to consumer or B2C sales. So while LinkedIn and social selling are tailor made for business to business or B2B sales, they can be used effectively for B2C as well. Like I said, we got a lot to talk about today, so I'm going to skip that normally long and stuffy intro and get right into it. Let's talk really quick about how B2C works on LinkedIn because it is, while LinkedIn and social selling can be used for it, it is a little different, Brent.
Yeah, we work with tons of financial advisors and bankers that are selling into consumers, families, individuals, not just commercial. And, a lot of them come to us and say, well, everyone says LinkedIn's a B2B platform, but really we're B2C, business to consumer. How does it work? Well, there are a few things. LinkedIn has some great filters that allow us to make lists and find people with B2B filters, right? Like industry that they're in or the title that they hold inside of a company. B2C, you can't search, I want people between the ages of 35 and 60, and I want, brown hair and green eyes and whatever it is, right? Like all those things
Yeah.
that, in the B2C world. But what we can do is find other professionals that are selling to the same client, like CPAs, right? Like, so they're working with individuals and families. Or so you need, as a B2C person, to look at LinkedIn not as this is my lead list tool, but this is my networking tool. This is how I
Exactly.
come and engage with great referral partners. One last thing before I throw it back to you, Bob. What I think is really critical is if you're B2C, most cases, your geographic location matters. And that is a filter that you can use in B2C. So you may not be able to search by age, by gender, but you can search by geographic location. And and we're going to go through a whole bunch of ways to use LinkedIn or steps to use LinkedIn from a B2C world. So now I'll throw it back to you, Bob.
Yeah, so there's one other big thing that I like to call LinkedIn when B2C is actually using it, and that's actually B to B to C because you're actually networking
I
with
like
other
that.
business professionals. So that's where the B2B part comes in. But ultimately, you're all looking for the more consumer market as opposed to the more business market. So that's where the 2C comes in. So B to B to C. That's what you're really looking for here.
I love that. That's awesome. Uh, Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, yeah. Next, we're going to talk about shifting your profile from a resume to a resource. That's
Is this
something that
number
we
two?
talked a lot about. Yeah, that's numero dos, shifting your profile from a resume to a resource. That's something we talk a lot about with B2B people Guess what? It's the same thing with B2C.
It
You
is. You
it
want to start
absolutely
or
is.
should I go?
You go ahead.
Okay, so you're 100% right, Bob. It is the same thing. We need to create curiosity, to resonate with our visitor, to teach them something new that gets them thinking differently about their current situation and creates a compelling moment. Now, I know that's a lot, and we want our profile, and we'll get to content, same concept. But the goal is when they show up at this profile of yours, that they go, oh, she works with people like me. Oh, he serves people like me. Right. So if we include who you help, how you help them, the results you bring, and what you do starting in your headline, immediately when someone gets to your profile, they understand. The other thing I want to throw in is everyone on LinkedIn that's in business is also a consumer. So while you can't filter and search for them with the right engagement and them visiting your profile, you can hit them from the consumer mindset versus the B2B.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And getting back to that kind of it's almost targeting to a certain extent. So we have a big client where we redo a lot of their profiles, and sometimes and this is a financial services type of company, and there's other things too, but mainly financial services is who we work with. And sometimes they come to me, it's like I help, anyone and everyone, and that's fine, and then we work with it. Other times it's like, well, I help, pre-retirees or people who are just about ready to retire to full retirement. You can actually address all of that in throughout your profile, starting with your headline, so that people, again, just like Bryn said, will feel like that you are someone who could potentially help them. And you can do it in a targeted way too. And I just mentioned financial professionals as one, but you can do that with any type of business, really nail down who it is that you could help throughout your profile. So
Yeah,
that's
and I love that
another
you
big reason. Yeah.
mentioned I love that you mentioned that sometimes they come to you and say we can help everyone. It's like the Mary Kay person that says, I can sell to anyone with skin, right? So I want you to think clearly. But what Bob said, if you're saying I can sell to anyone, then no one believes you sell to them.
Right.
So if you can narrow that down, sometimes I've seen you write headlines for this client that says helping individuals and families do X, Y, and Z. At least they go, oh, I'm an individual or I'm part of a family. Like at least
Right.
you're bringing in a market. So I love that.
Yeah, exactly. And then also profiles work in other ways too. And one of the points that I'm going to be talking about a little farther down, this is where profile is going to help too. So stay tuned for that. How's that for a tease? The next one is identifying
What
referral.
number three?
Yeah, we're on number 3 now. I keep
Number
forgetting
three.
my numbers. Number 3, I can count, believe me. Identifying referral sources.
So this is huge, right? Like there are, if you, we'll stick with financial services for now, but I want, if you're listening to this, just adapt it to you and your world. So if we are a financial advisor that is working with individuals and families, who else are they working with that could become really good referral partners? So if you go to your client and say, who's your CPA? Do you like her? Yeah, she's awesome. Fabulous. Would you be open to either giving me their information and me reaching out or making an introduction? And you can start to, who else do they work with, right? There are probably tax attorneys or estate planner, estate attorneys, right? So identify the other professionals that your client is working with, get either introductions or connections with them, and then build rapport, and they become great referral partners. Here's the thing, they will 100% take your call when you say, hey, we're both working with the same client, because they never wanted to come back to them that that they didn't take your call, or that, because it will get back to that client. So they're going to take your call simply because of that relationship, right? So that's really important. Number two, they're more apt to refer you, and you can be more comfortable referring them because they came vetted and you came vetted, right? You already have a shared client. Now, once you build a relationship, and don't do this on the first call, you'll blow it. But once you build rapport and a relationship with them, invite them to go through your connections and build a list of people that you might want to meet. You can do the same, review the list, and potentially make some introductions for one another. Now, you don't have to limit this to LinkedIn, right? You can have a conversation about what clients do you have that don't like their financial planner. You can have, it does not have to be limited to LinkedIn, but when you start on LinkedIn, it makes everything that much easier.
So much easier. So much easier. Absolutely. So number four, we've kind of gone through a little bit already, but asking your clients for intros into their other people. So, again,
I
going back,
messed that up.
that's okay because we could just push it really quick. And actually, I'm going to use another really quick example here. So, real estate agents, you go in and with a real estate agent, their clients may be using a CPA. They may be using a financial advisor. They may be using, lawn people and fix it people and, construction, general contractors, all of those other people that real estate realtors and people like that would love to talk to. So, that's just a way to kind of expand your thinking into, who do my clients interact with, who I may be able to get referrals from and establish a true referral relationship with them. So the
Yeah.
next one,
Yeah.
we're actually going to combine number 5 and number 6 together because they're a little different, but they're essentially the same. So number 5 is viewing clients' connections for other people like them, and then searching clients' connections for other people who are like them, essentially, Brad.
Okay, so the first one is when you go to
Viewing.
someone's profile, you'll see on the right-hand side other people like them.
Yep.
People also viewed. It's called people also viewed. But this is mostly used by recruiters. So typically they're very similar types of people. So that's the first one.
Yep.
The second one, right? We talked already about searching our clients' connections for referral partners, but we can also, if they happen to be a small business owner, who else are they connected to that are small business owners? Even if you're not working with them from a business perspective, they hired you from a personal perspective. So more people like them will probably hire you from a personal perspective, or are likely
Absolutely.
to.
Likely to. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So the next one, I think I'm
What
going to
number?
primarily, this one's number 7. I'm going to
Okay.
primarily take this one because I've got a couple of hopefully nuggets here. Engaging with local influencer content.
Good
So
one.
local influencers can be a wide variety of people. It can be other people, who are in those allied professions that you may want to network with. Sometimes it might be like just media outlets or things like that. If they do something, a story on something that falls within your category, you might be able to engage there. So now the thing with local influencer content though is that they may not be posting on LinkedIn. In fact, and that's going to vary very, very widely by individual markets. So some markets, just taking media outlets for example, some do on LinkedIn, and some may be on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram. Those are probably the 3 main areas where they may be. Don't be afraid to engage there. So the key though is, and this gets back to number 2, shifting your profile from a resume to a resource. And this is where this also comes in here. All of those other places have somewhere within the profiles that you do with them. So like on your Twitter profile, on your Facebook profile, you can put a link in there to anywhere that you want. Put your LinkedIn profile link in there. so that when they do go check you out on those, they're then taken to your LinkedIn profile, which has been converted from a resume to a resource. So they'll learn a lot more about you and know that, that you are the person that they should be in front of. The other nice thing is that, and this works almost all the time, is that they will then show up in your who's viewed your profile as well when they
That
do
is,
click through.
yeah,
It
that's
doesn't
a
work all
great,
the time. It depends on their settings, but more often than not, they will show up and you know that that person has clicked through because they were interested in you and you know that they click through.
I love that. That's a great tip. I'd also say look at their company pages,
Yep.
because on their LinkedIn company page, they are likely, it's like a chamber of commerce. They're sharing events, they're
Yep.
sharing upcoming things. And I will start, if they have events, you can actually see the people that say that's attending. And you can
Yeah.
actually message them even if you're not a first degree connection. So
Hmm.
you can start a conversation with them. It's kind of like comments in a post, right? So you can have a conversation with these folks that will be attending those events. You can start to connect with those local people. So local, if you sell locally, make sure your digital footprint is optimizing your local influencers.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And they may be on other places as well. So this is where you can take social selling actually outside of LinkedIn and then bring them back into LinkedIn.
Are we
Number
number 8?
8,
I got it
connecting with
right.
yeah, you did. Connecting with everyone you meet and then nurture with them with content. And when I was selling other things locally, I would do this all the time and it works. It works really, really well. Connect with everyone that you meet. And LinkedIn actually makes it easier now through the mobile app, which Brent, if you will, you actually talk about that a little bit more, and so you can put that more concisely than I think that I do because I tend to ramble about it.
Well, yeah, hey, we're in sales. That's what we do. Um,
Exactly.
so the LinkedIn app, when you are on the LinkedIn app and you are on the homepage, there is a little QR code all the way to the right of the search bar. When you click that, there are 2 tabs. There is one with a QR code that will lead back to your profile, and then there's a scan. When you click on scan, if you haven't yet, you give your phone permission to use its camera, or LinkedIn permission to use the phone camera. When someone scans your link, your LinkedIn profile will come up on mobile. When you scan their link, their LinkedIn profile will come up on mobile. Here's the key. Don't just hit connect, because when you hit connect, it goes without a message and you'll never remember how you met them in a year or 6 months. So if you click on the more button or 3 dots, it's different on different people's profiles. Um, but it's typically the more button. There's a personalized message. When you click on that, have a copy and paste ready. Like type something earlier in the evening that just says, great meeting you at the West Orange Chamber of Commerce annual event. I'm looking forward to continuing our conversation. So now when you connect, even if you don't continue it now, in a year from now, you'll remember how you met them.
Exactly. It's so big to do. And like I said, LinkedIn makes it even easier now than it used to when you had to collect someone's
Absolutely.
card, go back home, hope they remembered you, yada yada yada. It's so much easier to do now. So we
Also,
are
there was a second piece to your question that I didn't answer, which was nurture them.
oh
So
yeah, that's right.
have a welcome message ready specifically for those folks. So now they connect with you. You go back, you're back at your desk on Monday morning and you're like, "Oh, Jane connected with me. Fred accepted my connection request." What is your follow-up, your nurture message? Again, really great meeting you at the Chamber of Commerce annual event. Based on our conversation, I thought you might get some value from a podcast I listened to. This should not be original content the first touch. Go curate content around, maybe there was a speaker on a
Mhm.
topic at that event. Go find other content from that speaker that you can share, right? But personalize it, tailor it slightly more to the event so that it feels like you really, it's you're not pitching to them, you're trying to bring them additional value and start the conversation that way. Okay.
Exactly. Number 9, something else that I used to do and that LinkedIn has made so much more easier now than back in the bad old days when it was so much more manual, is holding local events yourself and then inviting your connections by location. So back when I lived in the DC area, I was part of a small group that started it used to be called First Tuesdays, where
Mhm.
people would and it was part of a national organization. I don't even know if they still exist, but you would have First Tuesday events throughout the country in local markets. So it was a national organization, but it was very localized, and it was a business local event essentially. Sometimes you had speakers, sometimes it was just just mix and mingle. But this is where holding local events and inviting your connections by location, because people probably aren't going to drive, huge distances, can really, really help you build everything that we're talking about. And it's very, very effective. And LinkedIn now makes it easier because they have LinkedIn events now. You can actually put events on to LinkedIn. You can refer people
Yeah.
to that event, and then they can register. And it's LinkedIn is so much better than it used to be when it comes to things like this. And I would have went nuts if this stuff was available now than back in
Right.
2009, 2010, when I was really doing this stuff. Yeah.
Let's talk about the LinkedIn event portion because this is what's
Yep.
phenomenal, right? And by the way, I am wholeheartedly into for these physical live events locally, but you
Same here.
can actually hold a Zoom local event where you are bringing in local people, right? But the event itself on LinkedIn, the event product on LinkedIn is incredibly powerful. The one tip I'll give, I mean, we've done complete podcasts on events, but the one tip I'll give on this is you can invite up to 1,000 people a month to an event of your first degree connections. You can go into that event and filter all your connections by location. So you can get one list that in under 5 minutes, up to two, you can invite up to 200 people at a time with one click, right?
Mhm.
So 5 clicks, and you can invite 1,000 of your local people, if you have that many, that are first degree connections to that event. And that's what I think is outstanding.
It's just it's so powerful what you can do now compared to before, and it only helps you out. So our last one, number 10, we kind of buried the lead here a little bit because this one is hugely important too. And this is nurturing with content by adding value and education. And this is where we get back to some of the things that we talk about all of the time with content sharing. And it's the same basic thing. You're just doing it as a B2C type rather than a B2B type.
Yeah. And you want to make sure, interestingly, there's two types of content because there's two types of people that you're targeting on LinkedIn. So one of our financial professionals that we worked with really went head on with the referral partners. So she created a checklist for CPAs, for tax attorneys, of uh, the 10 things, right, CPAs should ask to identify if there are gaps in financial planning. 10, right? So although she works with the families and the individuals, the fact that she created content for those referral partners was huge. And she used that more than the B2C content. It was
Yep.
really a B2B piece of content,
Yep.
the B2B to C, which I
Yep.
love. Right? It's brilliant.
Yep.
So, right, so you can absolutely educate your consumer, but also recognize if a big piece of your outreach is to referral partners, make sure you're providing thought leadership for them as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So if you're B2C, don't be afraid of this stuff. You can do it. And we've given you the 10 steps for you to do it. So go out there and be successful, because that's what we ultimately want for everyone who is listening to us here on Making Sales Social Live. So thanks for joining us. If you were with us live here on LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, or Twitter, we do this every week. So keep an eye out for our live sessions. If you're listening to us on our podcast, so pre-recorded, and you haven't subscribed already, go ahead and hit that subscribe or follow button. We would appreciate it. If you'd like more info on our podcast, go to socialsaleslink.com/podcast. I'll say it again because I screwed it up the first time. Socialsaleslink.com/podcast. We actually do 2 shows weekly, this one and then our Making Sales Social interview series, where we talk with leaders and experts in sales, marketing, business, and so many more areas. So when you're out and about, no matter what, if you're B2B or B2C, be sure to make you.
Social. Bye, guys.
Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.